Welcome to Energy Frontier, the Wyoming Landscape podcast. Hosted by Dr. Holly Krutka, Executive Director of the School of Energy Resources at the University of Wyoming. The show highlights SER's role supporting our mission to promote energy-driven economic development for the state of Wyoming.
Welcome back, listeners. Today's guest on our podcast is Joe Leimkuhler. He is Chief Operating Officer of Beacon Offshore Energy, a deepwater oil and gas exploration and production company operating in what was previously called the Gulf of Mexico and now is called the Gulf of America. Joe is a University of Wyoming alum. That's why we're talking to him today from Petroleum Engineering. And he has held leadership roles in some major energy firms. And so today we'll be really focused on some cool discussion around energy, but also our focus of leadership. So in his current role, Joe oversees offshore operations, and under his watch, the company's brought online the Shenandoah field, which is one of the highest pressure oil fields in the world, currently producing over 100,000 barrels per day. So Joe also gives back to the University of Wyoming. He is serving as chair of the Department of Energy and Petroleum Engineering Industry Advisory Committee and contributing both his time and his resources to guide the next generation of energy leaders. So today we'll talk to Joe about his UW foundations and his career and leadership lessons. So Joe, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Holly. It's nice to be here.
Yeah. So can you tell me about your time at the University of Wyoming as a student and what drew you to come here and then to petroleum engineering?
Well, I had every intention of going to law school.
Oh.
I was going to be a lawyer. And at the time, I was a mud engineer up in the Medicine Bow Range, up in the Snowies, drilling through the granite to see if there's any oil there. There wasn't. And Dr. Evers brought his drilling fluids class out for a tour of the drilling fluid system on the rig. So, of course, company man came over and said, hey, I got some students from Laramie coming up. Just show them how the mud system works. So I did. Walked them through everything. And over coffee afterwards, Dr. Evers looks at me and he goes, that was good. Do you have a degree? And I go, yeah. And he goes, what is it? I said, it's forestry and geology. And he says, oh, that'll do. And I said, that'll do for what? And he said, you're an engineer, and I would like you to think about the graduate program in petroleum engineering at UW. And I'm like, I'm one of 10 kids. I got 4 older brothers. They're all engineers. And I said, Doc, I know what an engineer is, and I am not an engineer. And he said, yes, you are. So, okay, do your mud check in the morning tomorrow and come and see me, 4th floor engineering building in the old engineering building here. Mm-hmm. And I did. And he convinced me that we could make it work. I said, I have no undergraduate engineering work. He says, we got a school of correspondence. You can do statics, dynamics. We can get your basic engineering courses done through the mail. There's no internet in 1982.
Right.
So we'll do it through the mail. So I would go from post office box throughout Wyoming, Douglas, Gillette, wherever the rig I was working on was. And that's where I got my assignments. I went and took my exams at the University of Utah because I was living in Salt Lake City at the time. He would mail my UW exams over to Utah, and I'd take them in the testing center at the University of Utah. And I did well enough, and he said, okay, the state has a graduate assistant program. You will teach our mud lab. And off I came to Laramie. 6 months later, my wife and kids moved over because I had gotten married in the interim. Because being a mud engineer, doing 28 days, working sometimes 28 days a month ain't going to work when you're going to get married.
Yeah.
And I did inherit an instant family. So the 4 of us all trudged over to Laramie. And it was a great experience. Dr. Evers is amazing. What a mentor. We're still in contact to this day. I was a distinguished alumni, and he showed up for my dinner, and that was awesome. He still kind of looks the same.
That's amazing.
And that was 40 years ago.
And so it's such a great example of how the faculty are, I mean, in your case, identifying young individuals, but also across their courses in the university when they're meeting people at this like really important time in their lives, and actually they can help them find this direction. Did you ever ask him what he saw that made him think that you were an engineer?
This is a couple years later, SPE conference in New Orleans. So Jack comes over. So Steph and I take Jack out to dinner in the French Quarter to thank him. And I told him that story. He doesn't remember it. This is pure Jack.
That
He's a
is
total
so
engineer.
funny.
He goes, I did that? I said, yes. And he just doesn't recall. And I said, well, how do you think I got here? He goes, well, I remember talking to you.
Oh, wow.
He's a
That's so
classic
funny.
engineer.
It'll always be a mystery then, but I agree. I mean, you seem like an engineer to me. So looking back, talk about how your time at the University of Wyoming shaped your career path.
I realized how I had no idea. I had no undergraduate engineering. I had no idea what a quality program was. All I know, this was an engineering program, and I'm going to do my best. But I first got a clue how good it was when I went on internships. And I interned with Atlantic Richfield Petroleum in the Bakersfield, California office, working drilling operations in the Santa Barbara Channel, offshore California. So that was my first taste of offshore. And I was working with fellow interns from Stanford, Texas A&M, USC, and all of them are like, how come this just seems intuitive to you? And I'm like, well, I was a mud engineer for a while, but I also have Jack Evers teaching me drilling engineering. Mm-hmm. And he taught it in a manner that just made sense. You know, it's like, hey, you know, all the pressure it takes to move that fluid through the drill pipe, it's all in the turbulent flow section. And that's just pressure is flow rate to the power of 2. And you can just do some simple calculations for making adjustments once you understand that. That's the way he taught. Mm-hmm. It was like, hey, you don't need to get an answer to the who knows how many decimal points. Just get close. That's good enough. And that's the way real life is. Mm-hmm. And he taught you to think in that manner. And he taught you all the practical aspects of rules of thumb and the science behind that rule of thumb and why it made sense and when it works and more importantly, when it doesn't work. And then you're there doing a job and other students are just, I don't know, proving formulas or something and not gaining a practical aspect of it. Education here was incredibly practical. Mm-hmm. You really knew how to do things when you left here. And I think it's still that way to a large extent.
That is so great. And the other thing is that, you know, I think our students, especially when it comes to energy, us being the only university in the state, our students really have the opportunity to, you know, interact with industry, to go see actual sites. We're always taking students out. In fact, at the last football game, we had someone offer and say, you know, we'd really love to host students at our site. And then, you know, at the School of Energy Resources, we like to support both graduate and undergraduate research. Like there's just so many ways to get that practical education that's focused on real world problems. So I think as a state and a university and the Department of Energy and Petroleum Engineering, it's really a big focus for us. So I want to drill down more, pun intended, on your career though. So you've had this incredible career across oil and gas and offshore. So can you talk about some of the defining leadership lessons that you've carried with you?
Yeah, I shared this with the students last night at a banquet, and I told them that if you're going to this line of work and you're worried about your promotion and moving up the ladder, you're not going to be the best you can be because you're not going to really be focused on the work at hand. And that was always my focus. I was always thrilled to be doing what I was doing. And if I ended my career doing that, I'd be happy because it was just always so fascinating. So I did have 3 offers when I left UW. One was in Casper, one was in Denver, and the other one was in New Orleans.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it was offshore with Shell in New Orleans. And I remember going down there and just being fascinated what Shell was doing and what they were, you know, kind of moving out into the deepwater. And so it was my lowest offer. It was the lowest offer. And I took it because it just seemed like it was the most interesting. And then convincing my wife and kids, yeah, we're going to Louisiana. And when we got there, it was like, I'm just immersed in the work, and they're having to deal with the bugs, the heat, the humidity, the rain.
Yeah.
And they're like going, ah!
Yeah.
And like, we were there 3 weeks. We were there a month, and my wife, Stephanie's just having a cow. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, God. So we actually did what all good engineers do. You rank your opportunities. What's criteria? So many points for this, so many points for that. So we scored all the offers again, and it still came up Louisiana.
Nice.
Okay, this is where we're supposed to be. We are going to make the best of it. So I went from, living at 7,200 feet, and the first rig I went on was the Discoverer 7 Seas, a deepwater drill ship in 7,200 feet of water.
Oh, wow.
So
how about that?
Above sea level to below sea level to the same amount.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to work with the deepwater drilling team at Shell, and the global deepwater focus has always been Shell, and it started in New Orleans, and that's where the global deepwater focus has always remained. And to a large extent is still there. A lot's moved to Houston, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. But I got to work and carpool with some geniuses and just pick their brain. And that was such an advantage. And I just loved what I was doing. And as I went through Shell, I always knew what my job was. And that was do the best I could and tell them exactly what I thought. Even if I knew it wasn't what they wanted to hear, that's what I thought. And this is when I transitioned from engineering into a leadership role. Mm-hmm. And I was getting a little bit what they call cross-threaded, with a manager. And he was kind of snarky, kind of rough on the edges, and he indicated I really didn't know what I was doing, and I was wrong, and I need to do better. And I went back and checked all my work and everything, and I found out, no, I'm right. I'm not always right, but I was in this case. And I went back to him, and I said, hey, do we have a problem? Because what I told you was correct, and here's the number, and here's the information. I said, my job is to tell you what I think, and your job is to consider what I think, and then give me direction. And as long as what you're telling me to do is not illegal or immoral, I have an obligation to do what you want me to do to the absolute best of my ability. But you have an obligation to listen to what I have to say.
Yeah.
We have a problem because you have no problems. I was promoted to superintendent the next day.
Wow. That's awesome.
And
I totally agree. I mean, that's such a critical leadership lesson. People listen so much better if they're sure that they have been heard. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think that's it's human nature. So, yeah. Okay. So Offshore Beacon is pushing forward new technologies and innovation. So can you talk about how your background is contributing to leading in this space, and maybe talk about the importance of staying innovative in the energy sector?
It's, I don't know. I don't have any magic buzzwords or anything other than, at Beacon, I was working at Log Exploration, and Log grew to be the largest privately held oil producer in America, offshore deepwater Gulf of Mexico. And Blackstone was a backer of it, and they decided that they wanted to develop assets faster than the owner of Log would like. Fully understandable. And they decided that, okay, they're going to take these assets out and start a new oil company. Mm. And my boss at the time was a fabulous man, great leader. So he leads by example. He's not a rah-rah type or anything. And we didn't take him out to dinner when he left because he really wanted to be more aggressive than the owner, and difference of opinion. They're both good folks. And so he left, and we never took him out to dinner. So I took him out to dinner, and he told me what this opportunity was. And he said, do you want in? And at the time, my son was at Chevron, and he came over and joined Log. So I said, I get to end my career with my son. I think I'll just stay there. But hey, I appreciate the consideration. And he said, well, the next person I'm going to talk to is your son.
Oh, no.
I said, well, he's a grown man.
Yeah.
He makes his own call. Go talk to him. So they talked, and comes into my office, shuts the door, and he goes, Dad, did you listen to this opportunity? Well, no. He says, I did, and I'm out of here. Mm-hmm. So I called Scott back and said, all right, I'm in. And he says, well, what do you want to do? You just want to be vice president and run drilling operations, or do you want to do COO and do it all? I said, heck, I'll do it all. So
and what year was that?
2018.
Okay.
So the four of us, so Scott, Aaron was a great, amazing production engineer at Logs. He decided to come as well. So my son, John, Aaron, Scott, and I met at a coffee shop in Mandeville. We're going to start an oil company.
Wow.
And that was 2018. We had a finance group. We had some geoscientists in Houston who were serving in what's called an oversight role. Mm-hmm. So when a company has a working interest, but they're not doing the work, they're just supplying the financing and the money, they do quality control on the technical operational aspects of the people who are doing the work. So we had some folks, but we just basically decided to keep the company in Louisiana because there was an awful lot of offshore talent throughout the world that would love to come home and end their career working in a place that they want to be, which is South Louisiana, north of the city in St. Tammany Parish, which is kind of like the woodlands in Texas.
Okay.
And that's what we decided to do, and just started hiring people. And 6 months later, we took on the actual production operations for those subsea fields, had to build all the safety systems, the engineering talent, the operations, the regulatory, and off we went. And then the Shenandoah project was discovered by Kerr-McGee, I think, in 2003. It went through 7 different oil companies. It ended up that we had a small working interest through some of the financial dealings in it, but we were the last remaining person or entity in that prospect that had the ability to maybe do the operations. And I remember my boss, Scott, comes in, he goes, "What do you think? Can we do Shenandoah?" I looked at him and I said, "You're smoking them left-handed cigarettes again, aren't you?" I said, "I don't think so, Scott, man. That is a bridge too far." And Scott, being Scott what he was very mild-mannered, went and talked to my drilling manager, my production manager, like, "Hell yeah, we can do that. Let's go."
Oh, wow.
So I said, "All right, we're in. Let's go." So we, went out and had to secure funding and everything. It's a $2.2 billion project.
Wow.
It is a floating production system. It is set up to handle 120,000 barrels a day. And before it left Korea, we upgraded it. We gave it the capability to easily upgrade to 140,000 barrels a day because we kept picking up other what are called 20K prospects. That's where the pressures are so high, it requires equipment rated to 20,000 PSI. So imagine a 10-inch piece of pipe that sits on the seafloor. That's your flow line. It's 10 inches outside diameter, 6 inches inside diameter, 2-inch thick wall steel, titanium steel. That's your flow line. It's a cannon.
Wow.
That it comes rocketing through. So it's only 4 wells we have at Shenandoah, and with just 4 wells right now, we're flowing over 100,000 barrels.
Wow. And how many people are at the company today?
100.
100 people. And talk about, okay, so I've heard you talk about this before. With 100 people, how does the amount of production that you've brought online compare to larger companies?
If you look at, by the end of next year, we're going to bring on the Zephyrus field. It'll be flowing by the time this hits the air. That looks very encouraging. We have another field called Winterfell. Overall, with just 100 folks, over the last couple of years, we've put more approved reserves on the books than any other company in the offshore, Shell, BP, all of them.
Wow.
And then you look at our production rates that we're getting from these wells. By the middle of next year, we should be the 4th or 5th largest producer in the Gulf of Mexico with 100 people.
So what do you attribute that to? With 100 people in that kind of production?
I really never thought about it until I gave a presentation in Galveston, and we're doing a lot of things, and we're doing Winterfell, which is a fascinating project in itself. Winterfell, we're doing Shenandoah. We have existing fields that we produce and develop. We're doing Shenandoah South, Monument, which we picked up from Equinor, formerly Statoil. We've got other project called Julia South, which we're working with Exxon to make that happen. The amount of work we're doing is it's like there's a lot of similarities, and every time we pick up a project, we approach it from a standpoint of it's not what should we do, what can we do? So with Shenandoah, we have a production team that had brought on and commissioned very similar facilities and operated them for years. We have that kind of talent in the company. We have a project manager who, Mike, is just off the charts good. He's so good, solid, because he had just finished a project for Murphy Oil called Kings Key, and there's the template, the contracts and everything. You know exactly what they need to look like. And when Mike and his team went to design the Shen FPS, these guys had worked on the models that were 1 or 2 in front of it. They knew exactly how wide do the aisles need to be, how big the space needs to be, the chemical injection skid, what does that need to be to easily work on? So I said, hey, here's your budget, do what you like, make sure it works, and how can I help you?
And so I think the word you're not using is leadership and vision, right? And so Talk about, one of the things I've heard you talk about is kind of your approach to hiring and your overall leadership. But start with like your approach to hiring. What do you want in these, you only have 100 people working for you.
Yeah.
What do you want in those individuals?
In all honesty, kind of cheated. A lot of the people we hired are people that work for, I was at Shell for 25 years.
I'm going to tell you what I've heard you say.
What?
You want people that other people want.
Oh, absolutely.
You're going to recruit the best.
Yeah.
And then work to retain them.
Yep.
So what else, what other leadership advice or experience could you share around this?
You know, I was at Shell for 25 years, so I have been to all the charm schools. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so, gosh, I was at Wharton for 6 weeks. It was interesting. They had a lot of consultants over the years come in and help you be a better manager, help you be a better leader. And it all comes down to, it's just, are you genuine? Mm-hmm. Okay? Do you genuinely love what you do? You love the people you work with? And you make it so that everyone wants to get up and go to work in the morning. Mm-hmm. So give them the freedom to utilize all of their talents as they see fit, within reason. You know, you check in with them every now and then. But at Shell, we had I think it was a servant leadership workshop, and we had to come up with, what's your leadership model? Mm-hmm. Who's your inspirational figure? And my inspirational figure was Popeye.
Okay.
Popeye the Sailor Man.
Explain that.
Because he always said, I am what I am. Mm-hmm. That was his tagline. And I said, I'm not going to try to be anything different. I am what I am. I think I know where my strong points are. My biggest quality is I know what I can't do, and I don't try to fake it. Mm-hmm. And so I just try to instill that in all my folks as well. Do what you can do. If you need some help, go get some help.
Yeah. And understand it's like no one has it all. No one's going to have all the ideas. And, you know, the really great leaders don't, you know, have to have that many. They just have to recognize they get the right people working for them and empower them.
Yeah.
You know, so, and I love what you said, I am what I am, because, which I've never heard anyone use Popeye as a leadership model. I'm going to have to go back and watch some Popeye. It's been a while, but you know,
he's a pretty cool dude.
In corporate America, there is a lot of really polished people. Yeah. And when you see that and you're like a younger professional and that's not you, you might think that maybe you're not cut out for leadership. And I think I felt that way for a long time. But then when I was at Peabody, actually, there was someone there who was in a leadership role who wasn't that way. She was just very open and warm. And I asked her about it one time and I said, you know, you're different. You're just very open and warm and, you know, kind of like to laugh. And there's no wall between you and other people. And she said, I can't be anyone else than who I am, you know, and I couldn't
She's
pull.
a Popeye.
Yeah, she couldn't.
Maybe she's olive oil.
Maybe she is. I don't know. But, you know, she knew she just like couldn't pull off kind of the super polished, always on thing that works for some people. And she did quite well for herself. So I think that's like the key that is, if you're interested in leadership opportunities, you know, you just be who you are and that you can.
And I've been incredibly fortunate. I can only think of one or two, maybe one person that I had to work for that I was like, ugh.
Yeah.
Every person I've worked for, I've looked up to. I still, and even now, you know, amazing guy I work for. Mm-hmm. You know, he's not a rah-rah type. He can't stand talking in public. Yeah. Which is why I do a lot of the, you know, the public face of the company and whatnot, because he once again, he knows what his strengths are. He's an amazing geologist, you know, almost a savant. And
wow.
Yeah. And he instills that kind of confidence in people as well. Mm-hmm. You know, he says, hey, I trust you you know the ops, you know the engineering, Joe, you and your team are just awesome. How can I help you?
That is such a great story. So, okay, well, I want to pivot a little and talk about the Department of Energy and Petroleum Engineering and our students and opportunities. And first of all, thank you for giving your time back by serving on the industry advisory board or the industry advisory committee, and you have a close view of UW and this Department of Energy and Petroleum Engineering. So from your perspective, we already talked about this a little. If someone's considering going into this field, why do you think they should consider the University of Wyoming in that department?
First off, the facilities when I was here were okay. The faculty were just incredible, all right? And we still have incredible faculty, but now we got facilities that will knock your socks off.
Yeah.
I mean, Ramona Graves, a dear friend of mine, Ramona was the Dean of Engineering at Colorado School of Mines and headed the Petroleum Department for a long time. I used to recruit for Shell a lot of the campus schools, mines among them, and I got to know Ramona very well. And she was on our advisory board until she retired, and she's a rock star. And she says, your facilities are unbelievable. These are world-class facilities. You know, and one of the challenges, you know, to be blunt, at Wyoming is the overall university pay scale. Difficult. I think we grow and groom a lot of tier one academic talent here. But it's hard, unless they are just in love with Laramie, it's hard to keep them. And that's a challenge. And you know, the whole entire Tier 1 initiative, I think, is very well founded. It's a worthy goal, but to understand how to get there at a land-grant institution with a non-selective admissions criteria is an unbelievable challenge. And you have to have a different way of approaching it. And you need to come up with, quite frankly, a pay scale that is at a Tier 1 level.
Sure. And so in terms of alumni and industry leaders getting involved here, I think we're really fortunate, and we get a disproportionate number of folks willing to give back to the University of Wyoming, including yourself. So can you talk about how individuals that are in industry and have had careers that are usually alums, the role that you all play in being engaged with the department and ensuring that it remains relevant and remains a strong department?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it's the strength of the other members of the advisory board. I mean, Richard Lynch from Hess is an amazing leader.
Yeah.
Richard's awesome. Other folks that we've had along the way, we've always had folks from other colleges on our advisory board, you know, specifically School of Mines, Colorado State, and we make sure we get an outside perspective that brings that in. And you know, Ramona Graves, she said, you know, we need to have confidential feedback sessions from the students. Yeah. We had one today, and just totally unfiltered. What's going good, what's not going good. And students here are very straight up. Yeah. You know, they're not hoity-toity. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. They're salt of the earth kind of people. And that's always been the strength. Yeah. You know, I think what always made a Wyoming engineer special is you get a Wyoming engineer, you're getting somebody who's going to work. All right? You're going to get guys and gals that get out there and love the technology, love the engineering aspect of it. And hey, if they happen to have a great career, awesome. That's icing on the cake. You know, the work is the thing that brings the satisfaction. That's a trait, I think, that's kind of common throughout the state. And you see it a lot in the folks who are willing to come here. Yeah, I totally agree. We have some incredibly hardworking students. It's so impressive, and they're also so thoughtful. So, you know, we're obviously great collaborators and supporters of the Department of Energy and Petroleum Engineering. We have our own undergrad degree called Energy Resource Management and Development, and we have all kinds of courses, and we support students to get internships and go over the Capitol. And I just love hearing their take on things because they're so not jaded. And it gives me so much hope, you know, that they're incredibly open-minded. They're very hardworking. And I'm like, okay, actually, yeah, maybe the energy future and the world's future, if it's going to be in these kids' hands, I'm feeling good about it. So we've talked a lot about the time you've given into this, into the Energy and Petroleum Engineering Department through this Industry Advisory Committee. You've also financially supported the department and the university. So talk about like what motivates you to do that. If it wasn't for that state-sponsored graduate assistantship, there's no way that, you know, gosh, I just got married, instantly had 2 kids, a family. How in the world do you go back to school under that scenario? It was the state graduate assistantship that made that happen. I would have had, and I did stay working. I worked with the Anschutz Corporation. I was worked for Circle A Mud Company after I worked for MI, and I'd worked with them all throughout school. But that work plus the assistantship from the state, and when I found out that the graduate assistantship focused on drilling from the state is no longer there, I just felt like, oh man, other people need to have the same opportunity I did. Mm-hmm. So, hey, we're fortunate enough to have done very well, and hey, let's get with the foundation and let's fill the gap.
Great.
That's a gap, and let's just go fill it. And my wife does not have as fond of memories as I do. She hates the wind. She hates the cold.
The wind is tough, but we have other attributes.
Yes, you do.
So, from your perspective, these students that you're supporting and more generally across the university are energy-focused students. What role do you think these students, UW graduates, can play in shaping the next chapter of Wyoming and the nation and really the world's energy?
I think it's a great question. I was asked that last night at our student banquet, and about the energy transition, and I don't think there is one.
I didn't use that word.
I know, but it's energy addition.
Mm-hmm.
So we need all forms of energy. You look at the estimates from the United Nations IEA, International Energy Agency, and the U.S. EIA, Energy Information Agency. Both of them project tremendous growth in renewables. Great, it's awesome. But they also project the world will need even more petroleum than we do today.
Yeah. So
there's a role in all of it. And whether you're drilling a well to sequester carbon or you're drilling a well to produce carbon, hydrocarbons, everything's the same. It's the same technologies that are used to do both. And in fact, you can argue the reservoir management, once the carbon's injected, you have to maintain it. You have to monitor the pressure. You need monitoring wells. You need reservoir management, even though it's a static reservoir.
Oh, sure.
And a storage reservoir.
Yeah.
But so many common characteristics of a petroleum engineering degree. And I found that a petroleum engineering degree maybe it needs a different name. It's a jack of all trades degree. Mm-hmm. You need to know enough electrical because you're going to run electrical tools in your well. You're going to have electrical pumps down there. You need to know electrical concepts. You certainly need to know a lot about the chemical engineering and the chemical reactions of, all the chemicals that we use to drill the well, produce the well, and get it turned on. And you need to know mechanical engineering because a rig is a mechanical feature. It's a mechanical beast. And you certainly need to know all the aspects of petroleum management, project management, project development. It is an incredibly diverse degree, and it sets you up for so many things. And it's such an underappreciated degree. Mm-hmm. I use so many aspects of it throughout my career, and it's not just all oil and that aspects of it. It's everything I learned here, from electrical concepts to the basics of heat transfer and whatnot. It's an awesome degree that sets you up for a whole lot more than just a conventional, I'm going to go work in oil and gas.
Sure.
And I don't think people appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think it's difficult for maybe a high school student to fully appreciate that. And, but, we are always working with the department, and we're drilling wells focused on CO2 storage. We didn't even mention geothermal yet. There's hydrogen storage, geologic hydrogen. There are so many opportunities. I think the department's done a good job in kind of forming educational opportunities around those, including, working with us on quite a few research projects that are related to all these different topics. Yeah. And it's the students doing the work. So, and I would just point out, one of the great facilities that you were referring to is our drilling simulator. Yep. And it has, of course, onshore, offshore. I think it's the only drilling simulator, or if not one of the only, that is like fully has CO2 storage information included in it, because we work with them and we want our students to be on the cutting edge of all these new technologies, because we're actually advancing them in the state and beyond. And so that's kind of the cutting edge opportunity that you'll get here at the University of Wyoming that not everyone's going to have. And it's not just on paper. These are happening in Wyoming. And so that gives us a leg up on keeping it practical, to your earlier point. So kind of a last question on this topic. What is your hope for the University of Wyoming and its energy-focused students?
I think the biggest word is probably stability. You know, the university's had a lot of turmoil in the leadership level, and if we could get stability there, I think that would go a long way to helping stabilize the program. That's the biggest factor. I mean, what's enabled me to be successful is just I never moved. I left Laramie for Louisiana, and we live north of the city in Mandeville. I've been there since 1987. So I've been able to develop an incredibly deep understanding of the deepwater Gulf of Mexico at all kind of levels. So I don't ask me what's going on in West Africa or Asia and the offshore, but I can tell you what's going on in the Gulf of Mexico, America.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny? That is not a lot of people's journey in this area.
No, I was asked many times to move.
How did you not? Oh, you were asked. And you didn't.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. At Shell, I was asked to move repeatedly, and I just said, every time I said, it's just not right. No, not now. And they would indicate, well, this could hurt your career. And I'm like, hurt my career? Are you kidding me? If I ended my career doing what I'm doing now, I'm happy as a pig and you know what.
And I would pull on that thread one more time, the point you made about, and I had, actually, I had a supervisor, a really great one, tell me the same exact thing too. Focus on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Even if you're ambitious and you want to climb the ladder, don't try to do tomorrow's job. Do today's job. That's what will get you there, and just be focused on it and have those conversations with your supervisor. And it's really great advice. And if you want to do a sports analogy, let's think about receivers. Do not run before you catch the ball.
Yeah.
Got to catch the ball.
Exactly.
So, Joe, we always close our interviews by asking a question that celebrates Wyoming. Obviously, you spent a lot of time here, but chose to spend your career, most of your life in Louisiana, but you come back often.
Yep.
And you speak highly. So tell me, what is your favorite place to be in Wyoming and why?
War Memorial Stadium.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. Yep. Okay.
So every
football.
time, football.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, in all honesty, I actually enjoy Tailgate Alley more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I do. Because I am the bead man.
Yes. Do you want to explain what that means?
Yes. So, I used to always bring a little bit of Louisiana up with me, and the colors of Mardi Gras are brown, gold, and purple. Not brown, gold. Freudian slip there.
Sorry. Because I thought they were like green and purple.
Purple, green, and gold.
Okay, that's what I thought.
You know you've been in Louisiana too long, because not only do you think that goes together, you think it looks good.
Yeah.
But anyway, so gold, brown and gold. I'm going to bring some gold beads.
Okay.
Because I brought a friend up from Louisiana. He was a great guy. He played a lot of football, both college and professional. So I said, you got to go to a game of Laramie with me. Well, what are we going to eat? We're going to tailgate. We're not going to bring any food. I said, hey, we're going to bring some beads. We'll trade beads for burgers and beers.
I love that.
So we started bringing beads. And I'm a slow learner. I would check a bag 50 pounds. I make sure it weighs less than 50 pounds. And I'd check bags with beads in it. Because I forgot there's this thing called FedEx. and now I FedEx the beads up.
Wow.
So I bring, a good amount, and it's just fun, just throwing them around, putting smiles on dogs, kids, whoever would like a bead.
Did you bring them this time?
Of course.
Okay. I already have a bunch of beads, actually, that you gave me. And in fact, like a gold chain.
Yeah.
Like plastic.
You got
I have the chain. Yeah.
You're chain worthy.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's big. Yeah.
I didn't know that it was so exclusive.
I tried to bring chains, but they were sold out. It's gotten to be the big go-to thing now.
Well,
yeah.
I have one.
You got one.
That's the important thing.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, great. I just want to thank you for all you do for the University of Wyoming, for the Energy and Petroleum Engineering Department, and for the College of Engineering and Physical Sciences. And thank you for doing this podcast.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Energy Frontier, the Wyoming Landscape, the podcast that highlights the School of Energy Resources at the University of Wyoming. You can expect a new episode of Energy Frontier every other Wednesday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. See you next time.